guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about NBA trades and how big they could really be this season, and how they could really shift, if we do have a season next year, how it could really shift, the teams at the top of the division. So let's get right on into it. So first I want to start off with, of course, in my opinion, the biggest trade that most likely would happen this year, or that I could see actually happening, because of course, you could say a big trade is Giannis going to the, Golden State Warriors. But from what we've heard recently from Giannis on Twitter and everything, it seems like that he really wants to stay in Milwaukee, saying loyalty is in his DNA. So, as we might have speculated before, that he would have wanted a trade to the Warriors if they don't win a championship this year and finish out the season, or they just don't finish out the season and, he doesn't think they can win in Milwaukee, he would want out. And, his big thing is he wants to win, but he also, as we've seen, is he's loyal, and so he wants to be loyal to his team. So it doesn't look like he will be either forcing his way out or wanting his way out. He probably will sign that Supermax deal, and he'll get paid a load of money. So that'll be interesting. But not talking about that, I actually wanted to talk about was Bradley Beal. So of course I talked about earlier, if you listen to my podcast, that the Nets and Bradley Beal, in my opinion, would be a very good mix. And so, now there's more speculation coming out that said, maybe the Wizards are kind of being like, well, they don't know, even if we were full power with everybody on our team, John Wall was healthy, everything, they still don't, I don't know if they would know exactly if they could compete in the East with likes of Giannis, Joel Embiid. I think if the Pacers can stick together as a unit, they'll be pretty good. There's so many, other teams, the Celtics, the Heat, the Toronto Raptors. So it's a very, it's a very, I don't know how to say this. It's became a lot more of a competitive division than it used to be. It used to be, you could be pretty bad. You could be one of the worst teams in the West, but still make it at the 8 or 7 seed in the East. Now it is no longer like that. There is still a difference between those teams, of course, but there's becoming more competitive. And the West, in my opinion, will always be a little bit more competitive because of the location. You have LA, you have all of California, and just more people want to live out there. So, that's just how people, that's just, or most players want to live out there, so that's where they're all going to go, and that's where they all want to go. So that's why I think the West will always be more competitive, but I think the East is actually getting more competitive with likes of Giannis, the Toronto Raptors. They don't even have a really, good star, but it's all because of their coach. That's something really cool to me. But now let's get right on into the trade. So I think they'd have to give up Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie and Jared Allen, in my opinion. Probably a couple. I've seen 2 or 3 first-round picks thrown in. It'll be interesting. They'll have to throw in a couple other small pieces to probably make the money work. But other than that, it would be a huge haul for the Wizards. And I think, they could, still be okay if they want to, do that and just kind of be in the medium of teams, kind of get that 6, 7, 8 seed with Spencer Dinwiddie and, John Wall in the backcourt. That would be very interesting in my opinion. But, you never know. So we'll have to see with that. So, the next trade I really wanted to talk about, this isn't as big of a trade, but it could be Derrick Rose to the Lakers. So we all know the Lakers have needed some, point guard help. They've been scoring off the bench and playmaking off the bench. Rondo has not been able to bring that, and so, of course, now with them, if they don't play the season this year or they lose this year, you got to know LeBron is waning down, and so this is, maybe their last year with LeBron on the team that they can really, make that push for the playoffs. and so it'll be interesting. They'll probably have to give up Caruso, or they most likely will have to give up Caruso because, before the trade deadline, the Detroit Pistons sent over a deal requesting, Alex Caruso and I believe a second or first round pick. I don't believe they have first round picks, but I believe it was like 2 or 1 second round picks and for Derrick Rose, and I think that would have been an interesting trade, but they declined that. And I do think in time Caruso may be a good scoring point guard, but I don't know if he has that playmaking ability that Derrick Rose could bring to the table when LeBron is off the court, because we just saw the Lakers had elite stats on offense when he was on the court, but when he was off the court, they really weren't that good. They turned into the Pelicans, when they had Anthony Davis there, and they really didn't have much else. When DeMarcus Cousins was injured, they had Julius Randle, and that was about it. And they just threw the ball down to Anthony Davis, in the post or wherever he wanted to be, and that's where they played him. So it was a little bit interesting with them there, and it'll be interesting to see. The next trade I really wanted to talk about was the Sixers making moves. So, in my opinion, I think the Sixers, honestly, for their 2 stars, have really good 1 and 2 stars. I think Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, can be, they can win numerous championships together in the league right now. I think if you set up the team around them, I think you would have to take what the Bucks have done with Giannis and just surround them with a bunch of 3-point shooters. Now, hopefully, Ben Simmons could, get that 3-point shot down. And if he doesn't, okay, he's not going to be as good, but he's still going to be pretty good. And then you have Joel Embiid that can just beat people in the post. So, if you just surround them with 3-point shooters, people that can, step out, shoot the 3, like they had J.J. Redick last year, and Jimmy Butler wasn't bad at it. And, I think they also just need a finisher. I think that would be the important thing in my opinion. I've seen that the Kings might try to trade for Al Horford, and that would be interesting to me. I've seen people saying Harrison Barnes would be in that deal, but if I'm the Sixers, either I want to go after Bogdan Bogdanovic or Buddy Hield because they're both really good 3-point shooters on the team. I'd personally, if you can get Bogdan Bogdanovic, and maybe you don't even have to make a trade, but if I'm them, you want to try to get rid of Al Horford's salary, because he is way overpaid in my opinion. He's getting paid about $25 million for, if they finish out this season, for 3 more seasons. And, he's going to be, I believe, 36 or 37 years old once his contract is over. And so, that's a really bad deal for the team, and maybe they thought it might help the team this year because Al Horford was an okay 3-point shooter in Boston, and he was the only guy that could guard Joel Embiid in the league. And, just you want to beat him? Well, then get him on your team. So it was an interesting philosophy. I don't think it worked. I also don't think Tobias Harris is a good fit for the team. It's just they need to change out the team and their structure a little bit. I've also seen, where during the season they were looking into trading for C.J. McCollum because, of course the Blazers weren't exactly happy with where they are or where they were. And I think, honestly, it wouldn't have been a bad trade for either team, but it would depend on what either draft capital or other players the Trailblazers could get. Because, if it's pretty much just a straight up trade for that, straight up trade between them, and maybe they just, like the Sixers were throwing a second round pick, that's, a really good trade for the Sixers, but not so good for the Trailblazers. Because I do think CJ McCollum could be a pretty good star, next to Dame, but if they could get some, like a first round pick and 2 seconds or something along those lines, or maybe another pretty good player that has potential, that'd be interesting to see. Maybe Josh Richardson or something like that, but yeah. And also, throughout the 76ers, their best 3-point shooter is Frank Korkmaz, and he's very streaky, so I do think they need someone else. He's put up 37 points some game, and then the next game he would put up 3 or 4. He's so inconsistent, and so he was a very streaky player. He'd go on a streak and just light up, opposing teams. So that was interesting. So the next team I wanted to focus on was the Denver Nuggets, and so I think there's also been rumors that they would trade for a third star, and so that's what's also been interesting with Bradley Beal is they might try to trade for Bradley Beal or just someone else that would complement Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I've also seen with the Jazz situation with Rudy Gobert where they've been kind of a falling out between them. They might trade for Donovan Mitchell, and that would be a really interesting backcourt. And then you'd also have Nikola Jokic in the front court, so that'd be very good in my opinion. But if I'm the Nuggets, you want to try to hold on to your stars as best as you can, because it's hard to come across players that are as good as both of them, and they both got them for steals. So that'll be interesting to me. Alrighty, guys, so I just wanted to talk about the Knicks real quick and how, they could become a playoff team this year. So, in my opinion, of course, they still think that they could get Giannis. And so, my guess is their trade will be, or not trade, they will sign, DeMar DeRozan either for a max or just below max, around $22 million for a 1 year deal, 1 year deal, hoping that, once they got the 1 year out of him, then they could lure, Giannis to coming to the Knicks. And I think that also make a trade for Chris Paul. They have a lot of assets, or not a lot of assets. They just have a lot of players and some good picks that the Oklahoma City Thunder might want. They could give up probably Bobby Portis, Kevin Knox, a couple other players, and then just throw in maybe 2 second-round picks, maybe their second-round pick this year. That would be, it pretty much is going to be probably a late first-round pick because, because it's just going to be so early in the second round. It's going to feel like that at that point. So that'll be interesting to me. And so, that they could be a playoff team, but I don't expect them to be with how dysfunctional they've been in the past couple of years. I just don't know how good they'll be. And then also, another team I wanted to talk about is the Boston Celtics in the free agency market. I expect them to try to go out and get a big-time center. And then, I do expect Gordon Hayward to pick up that option. But if he doesn't, if I'm the Celtics, you're looking to try to get him on a, more team-friendly deal because he's already good friends with Brad Stevens. So maybe you could try to convince him, just be like, hey, you like Brad Stevens, you like playing for him, why don't you take a discount? So, we can try to compete better because I think with the money that they've been paying him recently, he is a bit overpaid. The last trade, that I really wanted to talk about was Aaron Gordon getting traded somewhere. So, of course, if the Nets cannot get Bradley Beal, I think, they would think about trading for, more powerful player, maybe in the post or something like that, because KD really can't fill that position. And they of course have DeAndre Jordan, but getting a little bit older. And, Jared Allen is still coming up there, but maybe they want someone at the 4 spot, that can battle in there, get some rebounds and stuff like that. Well, they might trade for Aaron Gordon. And so, I think that all they'd have to give up would probably be Spencer Dinwiddie. And I think, honestly, for, the team, that'd be a better move, but I would feel bad for Spencer Dinwiddie because, it's just the Orlando Magic have been such a, terrible franchise. If I was him, I would try to get out of there as quickly as possible because, they've just ruined stars. I think Mo Bamba, they have him playing the backup center position. I think he could be a star in this league, but they just don't give him the playing time, so that'll be interesting as well. The last thing, it was the first thing, and now the last thing I am going to talk about is that the Warriors and who they might trade for. So I've seen rumors that they would trade for Kelly Oubre, maybe Dennis Schroeder, or Miles Turner, and all 3 of those trades I could see happening. But personally, in my opinion, I really do like the Dennis Schroeder trade. He's not a bad defender, and they kind of need that defender coming off the bench that when if Clay comes off and then they can have Schroeder and Curry still on, or they could kind of mix around. They could have Dennis Schroeder and Clay or something along those lines. And, I think they could run a pretty good 3-guard rotation with that, and that'd be very interesting because you'd have, two of the best guards in the league, and then you'd also have, the sixth man, in my opinion, of the year. So that'd be pretty interesting. Alrighty, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want more in-depth detail on what I've been talking about, don't forget to go check out my podcast and who I think should win the championship or the awards this year, like MVP, Coach of the Year, Most Valuable Player, and Most Improved Player. That is all on my podcast, so it's going to be down in the links below if you guys want to check out my podcast. Alrighty, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and help this channel grow. And don't forget to stay safe in these times. Alrighty, guys, see you guys later. Goodbye.